Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Skip, aka Skipntosh, here with my man Wes. Say what's up to the people, Wes.
How's everybody doing today? I'm ready to talk about some Bryan Hill, one of my three favorite writers in all the industry.
Good, because he's fastly moving up my leaderboard of my favorites in the industry. And this book, Fallen Angels, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Let's start this thing off with the bang. Like, up until I read X-Men #2, which I did read after this because I'm reading things in order, and I even reread X-Force. This is my favorite book out of everything that spun out from Hawks and Pox, even over X-Men #1. And I'm going to say I'm even going to give it the edge over X-Men #2 a little bit too. This is easily my favorite. I talked about how I enjoyed New Mutants. And that was like really up there, but this has surpassed everything for me. Wes, so since we're starting off with the bang, where's your rank of this book? And then from your rank, then we'll go ahead and we'll start breaking it down.
This is firmly a number 3. X-Force is my favorite so far. X-Men #2 was right neck and neck with X-Force #1. There's some slight issues with art that I didn't like, and the humor in that one didn't really do it for me. This one's right after that. There's a couple of issues I have with the story where there's some explanations that aren't provided. I don't love the art in this either, so those kind of knock it down. But it's right there. It's definitely well above Marauders, Excalibur, and New Mutants in my book. I know you like New Mutants a lot more than I did.
Yeah. For the artistic choices and even for the adventure of it, them going out into space. But we did a whole video on that, and we talked about that. So if you guys were wondering what our thoughts were about the New Mutants, if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you go back, a few backs, rewind. That button still works on the TC channel, and make sure you rewind your videos before you return them to the TC library. But let's go ahead and jump in on this one, Wes. This time around, we won't be going through the story all the way. It's too good of a book to do that. If you want to know the story all the way through, do yourself a favor and go and grab this issue. I will be reading out of, just because I'm a fan of Jonathan Hickman. I got the Jonathan Hickman variant. And thank you, CB Sobolski, for making such nice pages to print on, because I got to wear gloves when I read my comics now, Wes, if they're not digital. Humbug. Anyway, we kind of talked about it a little bit when we were talking about the preview, but the book doesn't start off where the preview does. It starts off in a very, very interesting way, and we get the whole beat of, we see a young lady, and we don't know exactly what's wrong with her yet, but she is consumed by something and basically causes this train wreck. That's kind of the first big scene. From that alone, Wes, what were some of your takeaways from how the book really and truly started?
Well, it's definitely a Bryan Hill book because it's got a lot of the same things same themes that are in his Angel book that's out right now, where there's a god that's infecting technology and using like YouTube and Twitter to get to children and possess them. This kind of falls right into this. Also in his Aphrodite 5, it's very much is technology a good thing? Is it an evil thing? And this one it has a neat spin. I'll give him that. It's a new take on whether or not technology is good. Too much technology is bad. Whereas now there's a designer drug that is essentially technology. It's really cool.
Absolutely, I love that. And myself being a writer, I'm like, words matter. I pay very close attention to words and actions as well. But the theme that Bryan Hill is following throughout these books, as you've mentioned, because I haven't read them all, but Albert Einstein had a quote a while back: "Our technology has surpassed our humanity." And I'm paraphrasing it, but that's almost it word for word. And Bryan Hill is exploring those themes and such in these books, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, of course we have the car crash, and we do come to find out later exactly what the girl was consumed by. As Wes said, it does have something to do with technology. From out of that, then we do get to the scene that we had out of the preview that had come out, which I really enjoyed this. And it's funny this time around, and actually not looking at it on a screen, but having the comic in my hand, I had a little less issue with some of the art that I talked about, but yet and still, I still feel that same about some of the other scenes that we had seen. But I do like the whole idea of how, Kwannon is up there and she's kind of retracing who she is and how she became who she is earlier on as she was trained by the group that she was a part of. I don't know if they're exactly tagging the hand yet. I am not the most I don't have an extensive knowledge of Kwannon beyond that. I know she was tied to the hand. It seems like it's someone from the hand that's training her, but Wes, the blood, you know, it being the thing that's the gift, and your DNA and who you are and where you came from being part of your identity, and her resuming that after her body had been taken away. Let's give a quick Wes take on that part.
You know, it was interesting. It's a beautifully set up scene. You know, she's finally at peace in her life, and essentially, you know, she has to, you know, kind of cut herself just to feel in that point, because she's everything is so peaceful in her life. She can't feel, so she nicks herself, and you know, the blood creates life in the plant. It's a beautifully rendered scene. You know, you get the butterflies and all that stuff, and all of a sudden her past just comes back to haunt her, and she's got like a voice in her head saying, you can't live in peace. You will smother and die in this location. You have something more that's calling for you. Your nature does not allow you to be here. And I thought that was really interesting. And then when you see the flashbacks, you kind of see maybe that's not incorrect. She shouldn't be there.
Absolutely. Definitely not a person that was raised for peacetime. And fully from the flashbacks encouraged, you know, to see peace as an enemy, as Bryan Hill said in the excerpt that we read out of, and from the interview that he did with our buddy Perch. So make sure, again, everybody, I think it's even more poignant now. I haven't listened to it again since reading this comic, but I encourage everybody, and I will be doing this myself. I'm going to go back, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna Wes, remind me of this. Say, hey Curtis, you had something to say regarding the Comics Perch interview at the end, because I'm gonna make a little declaration at the end of this. But I do really enjoy that part. Peace as an enemy for a warrior, and for a warrior that does not fight for peace, but a warrior that is raised to just fight, just war. So I thought that was really interesting. From there, we move over, and this was like a big beat. You know, we kind of leapfrogged on those two smaller stones. This one we might spend a little more time talking about, because easily some of probably my two favorite scenes in this book were the interactions and the conversations, the places that we get to see character development, character identity, character growth. Incredible. She is in search of this voice. Where did this voice come from? Why are they instructing me that I need to kill a god? XYZ, and the person that she goes and talks to is Magneto. Now, Wes, being that X-Force is still, I think you said X-Force is your favorite out of all of the books so far, right? Absolutely. Why don't you tell us why it was, of all the people that she would go and talk to, why was it Magneto that she went and spoke to?
Charles has been assassinated, and the island is on lockdown. There's no leaving right now, and Magneto is filling the power vacuum, and is essentially the de facto leader. And so she needed to approach him and ask for his counsel and essentially his permission or blessing to leave. And he's like, hey, the island's on lockdown, so you can't leave. But if you were to go talk to Mr. Sinister, maybe he can help you. And she's like, okay. And I can't wait to talk about Mr. Sinister. That's the best part of the whole comic.
That was definitely one of the best parts, probably the best part, I would say, for sure. Now I have to point something out here for the this is what made me, when I said I was so about the art, a better term would be I felt very pulled in either direction, because for how, even though I felt better about the introduction scene and everything that we just spoke about, the previous scene, if there was a part where the art was fully redeemed and I was saying this is how it should look, this is good, it was when she went and saw Magneto. All the blacks, all the darts, how the light was so intentionally placed on the faces based off of the angle, and we saw where the light was coming down as it was shining down right upon Magneto and coming down, and then she was getting the glow, you know, from that. That was the part where I felt like the art really shined. And also within the detail, as the resolution got higher and finer, some of the things that we talked about was kind of muddy, and the digital techniques to bring things to the foreground and then the things in the background make them blurry and out of focus, how it kind of even made what was in front of us out of focus was not here at all. And probably partially because there wasn't a lot of background outside of the establishing shot, but yet and still, if we're going to strip some things back, if we're going to be creative with the panel layout, if we're going to put some effort into that, then this is where I can say, I'm so glad that they chose Szymon Kudranski. had to look at the front of the book. There's no R at the beginning of Kudranski. It's Kudranski. So happy. And it was these parts where I was like, I feel like this is better than the art that he got out of Batman and the Outsiders, the annual. That art I feel like was more consistent overall, but this is where I feel like the highs of this art were higher, and then the lows of it were a little lower than that book. And very interesting, both themed around Japanese culture. So I don't know if Bryan Edward Hill's been making flights to Kyoto and Tokyo.
He's definitely taken some inspiration from Katana for his backstory on Psylocke here. But
he's turning Japanese. I think he's turning Japanese. I really think so. Or is that C.B. Cebulski turning Japanese?
Who knows? But I'll give you this: the paneling on this, the panel layouts and the page layouts, like read extremely perfectly. Like you're not darting around and be like, oh, I can't believe I read this out of order. It all flows really well. But so I got to say this: I hope that Bryan Edward Hill's Mr. Sinister becomes the Mr. Sinister that's in all the comics now, because his Mr. Sinister is superior to Jonathan Hickman's like weird, creepy Mr. Sinister. His is way more cerebral. He's like he said it in like he wanted a lyrical type of story. He's much more lyrical. He had very profound things to say, hidden within a playful nature about him, which made the character about 1 billion times better in my mind. That is the Mr. Sinister I want. I don't mind if he's a little flaky. He's a little bit different, mischievous. But man, he's got some fantastic lines, and he's portrayed in a much better light.
Absolutely, the overall writing for him was better. And this, and it's funny, knowing what I know and what we likely all know, or at least most of us, if we've been into X-Men for a while, this was much more Nathaniel Essex. The person who initially started off being interested in genes, being interested in that, and then having a sinister mindset about it. This was much more same, the Mr. Sinister that I know and I love. And I almost feel like Jerry Duggan, like seeing that Jerry Duggan even wanted to continue like the whole little tabloid thing. I feel like Jerry Duggan was very responsible for how that Mr. Sinister that Jonathan Hickman came out. And even if he wasn't, and if it was all Hickman, Hill did it better. And I gotta say that. So thanks for pointing that out, Wes. Being that we're talking about lyrics and I'm a writer, I do have to point out that part of what there was a little bit of dialogue with Magneto talking about, basically it made perfect sense to me why she went and talked to Magneto outside of Professor X not being with them currently right now. He hasn't been restored from his backup yet. The part of the reason why I enjoyed it is because this was someone who was raised to fight and never really knew peace, talking to another person who, since he came into this world, as someone who went through the Holocaust, who just fights and doesn't know peace. Neither of them really knew peace up until the whole Krakoa situation happened. So perfect person to talk to. But coming and talking to Mr. Sinister, that part where he starts to talk about how did it feel when Betsy Braddock, Elizabeth Braddock took over your body. And she was like, I was screaming and I was burning and nobody can hear me. And he was like, and how would you what would you do to her if you could, or whatever. And, and how did it feel when you killed somebody? And she was like, it showed me that the purpose of life is what we make it. And he was like, exactly. How would you kill Betsy Braddock? Like, that's sinister. The gene thing is Nathaniel Essex and all that stuff, but that's sinister. That's literally sinister how he's thinking. He was like, don't bore me. If you're going to come here, make this exciting for me. If you want to know what I think, and if you really want to know how to get off of this island, like Magneto fake told you to do, or fake told you not to do, then make this worth my while. And I loved it. It was incredible. So good point. Absolutely. Good point, Wes.
So one of the issues I have, I got the whole thing isn't great for me. The forming of the fallen angels, basically, she's told to go get a team of people that don't want peace, of basically cage predators, and she goes and she finds X-23 and young Cable goofing around while everyone else is out dancing and celebrating. They're fighting, and so she decides to select them. X-23 is like, yeah, I'll join you, but we don't want Cable. He's like a wild card or something. But then later, he joins them, but there's no explanation why. I'm like, what changed between here and now? So I don't.
Okay. So well, yeah. she didn't say that she didn't want Cable. She said Cable has been fighting. Like Cable wasn't raised like us. We were raised to just fight and fight and fight. Cable is fighting for peace because he knew peace, and then his world changed on him, and he was fighting to get peace. And I don't want him to have to deal with the depths of what we're gonna do. He wasn't exactly raised like us. And then later on, after they went to the initial thing where they went and they talked to the lady that can get them information and intel on what was going on, and then we find out about, gosh, I forget the name of the drug right now. Maybe Overclock, which I like the name of it. Which was perfect. After they went through that, that's when they came back, and then they saw that it's going to be bigger than they thought it was going to be, and they said that, and she said, we need more than us two. I was fine with just us two until I realized how big this thing actually was. It's way bigger than us. So we are going to need a team. And then that's when she was like, we're going to go get Cable because we know we can trust Cable.
I don't remember the part where they said they were going to go get Cable. I just remember him just being there all of a sudden.
Yeah, because they remember they went all the way back to Krakoa. Yeah. And that was because at that point they knew that just them two alone weren't going to be able to do it. Now I will give you that was fast paced, and if we're talking about that area of the part, something that didn't get brought up that I knew they just didn't have time to, but even still I was like, yeah, that's leaving us wanting for real is when she came across Betsy. She came across Elizabeth Braddock, and Braddock was trying to talk to her like, hey, like, this is awkward. Yeah, and she was like, I don't have the time, and just kept it pushing.
I like it. I was like, there's a lot of you can see she has a lot of she has a lot of issues with what happened to her, where she was basically trapped inside of her own mind where someone else was controlling her body. Right. And she's not happy about it. Nope. She wants to do something about it. You can tell. But she's kind of keeping that part of her inside. So I think that was really effective. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the characterization. Outside of, like, Mr. Sinister was my favorite part, but the way that he did Kwannon herself, I thought was really good. So we gotta talk about this villain. So she finally she gets to Japan. She knows somebody that can get her to where she wants to go. Right. And basically she goes nuts. Because she sees a picture of the little girl on the train, and we learn, it's her daughter that the assassins took from her as a when they were training her, so that she would know true pain. So when she was in the struggles, she would know that there's something worse than this. Think about the time we took your child from you, and she goes in a complete rage, destroys everybody, but she uses her telepathic ability to get the place where she can locate Apop. And man, I was not expecting it to go that dark. Were you?
I wasn't either. Yeah, like I was like, hold on. So, and not only that, did they have the daughter and said, we'll mark her with the butterfly. So maybe, just maybe later on in life, you'll be able to find her and reconnect. But they even said that, you fell in love. Love is a form of weakness. Attachment is a form of weakness. So we killed the boy. And the baby we will take from you, and we will mark with the butterfly. I didn't think it was going to go that deep and dark either. I was like, dang. So and what I liked about that is, stakes and motivations. Now we know what drive. For so long we knew a lot about Psylocke, the Betsy Braddock Psylocke, but for Kwannon to come back and this to be Kwannon's story and us to trace that back and then make her fully invested, which made me more invested. I was like, ooh. That was interesting. And it's funny, to that point, Wes, now that we're talking about that, I can totally see a theme. And now I know, and not trying to change your mind on how you felt, how quick Cable came back in. I understood how he came back in, but I could say that it could have been maybe a little more fleshed out. There's only so many pages that they give these guys, and they're obviously banging this art out. But the Laura, X-23, and Cable obviously got a thing. It's that whole, school, like, oh, you're ugly, I don't like you, I can't stand you. I'm saying that because I really like you. They even danced and they fought, and she punched her in the nose and all that stuff. That's going to come back later, because as they're going together on these missions, they're going to fall in love. And I'm bet that Kid Cable is going to get caught. and it's going to be his neck on the line, which is going to make X-23. It's going to put her in Kwannon's place, how the boy got killed, except with the exception that they probably won't introduce a baby. But I totally see that happening down the line. Totally.
Yeah, they really gave X-23 a very simple yet effective reason for not wanting to be on the island. I'm tired of being in Wolverine's shadow. Makes complete sense. She's been in Wolverine's shadow literally and figuratively in her entire existence as a character. So why wouldn't she want to be out of Wolverine's shadow? So I did like that part.
Yep.
Actually a lot.
Yeah. No, that was dope, and that was good for me. And it was the same thing for me because I was like you said, she's been in Wolverine's shadow for so long, and that's just them not wanting to really engage the character and give the character a better backstory. To pull it out of Wolverine's shadow, they just want to sell books, especially since they killed Wolverine off. But that was interesting. Now I will give Bryan Hill more kudos again. He didn't use a bunch of the info pages, and I bet there's probably a minimum requirement that you got to use at least one info page. But he used it very, very well. It wasn't too convoluted. It was very straightforward. There was enough detail. He used terms and vernacular that he did his research and whatnot, which, as you said, he's kind of on that kick right now. So he's well researched in that area, and I thought that was dope. So kudos to Bryan Hill for not using too many, not making them too gaggy and too wordy,
not making them poetry,
and not And then there was the thing with the thing, and hey, I'm just trying to get my Tom King on here. All right, if you could get off my back. By the way, for everybody watching, I don't call Tom King anymore. I call him Ting. Okay, I'm not saying that man's whole name. So if you see Ting, what is Curtis talking about? Ting, talking about Tom King. All right. We get from there, and then we have pretty much the conclusion where things not fully wrap up, but pretty much wrap up. And this really raised the stakes for me as well, because they followed the information, because she used the Psy blade on the the kind of the info lady's head, pulled out the last known location of where Apoth might be located, and we get there. It's a barn with no security, and it's a bunch of kids. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about this, Wes, because I thought it made perfect sense why it was kids.
Nightmares. This is the stuff that you see in really quality, like heartbreaking horror stuff. She walks in. There's all these children. They had the same physical signs of what her daughter was infected with in the very opening scene, and you can see they're not in control of themselves. They're on this technology drug that basically isn't controlled, and then Apoth finally speaks to her through one of the kids' voice after he drops the other ones. And it's very sinister. Excellent villain. Bryan Hill really, he gives her a great purpose. He gives the whole team a great purpose once they witness that. So it's much darker than I expected, but it was exceptionally effective.
Absolutely. And being that it was her daughter that had gotten taken away, which we saw with the butterfly. That was the girl at the beginning that had crashed the bus, because that's one of the things they say about overclock. If you do overclock, aka overdose, if you do overdose on overclock, which is more technology than it is, like synthesized drugs, so to say, you have a want to take out everyone around you. So she overclocked on the train, took out the whole train. But I love this part because they made Kwannon when she was young. And I want to say, I love how different that they made Kwannon look in her face. And like the art on Kwannon's face and who Kwannon looks like, so beautiful. And I don't just mean pretty. I love J. Michael Straczynski. Is that the dude that draws all the pretty looking women? I love J. Scott Campbell. I'm sorry. Straczynski is a screenwriter. James Scott Campbell is the artist. I love his drawings. I really, really do. They're fantastic to me. But it's a different kind of beauty that they gave Kwannon in these pages, and it's awesome. But young Kwannon looks like her daughter that we saw in the beginning, and I just love the part, I am Kwannon. Thank you. You are a caterpillar, soft and ugly and useless, but you will become a butterfly. Kwannon, I will make you a butterfly. That's what her leader, her teacher is telling her. Getting in her head, you're nothing without me, but I will make you beautiful. And what was so interesting is after we go through that Apoth scene where he overclocks all the kids and they die, and he talks through the kids and then they pass away, she goes back to the island, and it shows her older with the teacher, and the teacher is saying, "Spread your wings, Kwannon," as she's holding the blade in front of her on the cliff. And you You will you are the will of balance. Tell me, what do you need? And she simply says, someone worth killing. And then finally come to the very last scene. And I just love the fact that, she goes and talks to Sinister again. Sinister kind of blesses her, saying, go ahead and get the rest of the team. And it's so dope how it was a callback. And basically she just starts barking orders at Laura and young Cable. And she's like, you're giving us orders. And Kwannon says, I don't have a choice. You're caterpillars, glistening and soft, but I will make you butterflies.
They're in training.
I just love the callback. That's thoughtful writing, the good callbacks. It was incredible. So
you can tell Bryan Hill's a screenwriter, the way that the story was formatted and the way everything tied together at the end. Is very, I don't want to say formulaic, but you could see that being in a TV show and you being totally enveloped in the story the whole time. So yeah, he did some excellent story craft. Like I said, I had some issues where I don't understand why Cable Hughes all of a sudden you said you didn't want him. I also don't really get why she's taken Betsy Braddock's Psylocke moniker. Maybe she wants to steal something from her because she took her body from her. I don't know. I don't think that was really fleshed out. Hopefully he hits that in the beginning, but overall I think this was a really, really good first issue. And being the huge Bryan Hill fan that I am, I can tell you issue 2 is always his best comic book.
No sophomore slump, baby. We're gonna see about it. I'm so excited for this one. It wasn't a perfect story. It's very rare that you can find a perfect comic. I know a few, but there's only a few. But for what this was and the effort that he put into it, and it made all the sense in the world that this got saved as the very last book that got put out before the issue 2s of everything else. And obviously X-Men number 2 came out, but I will go ahead and say for me personally, they saved the best for last when it came to this Bryan Hill thing. So I was floored. I was over the moon for it. We will continue to bring these to you as they unfold. We're going to try to come up with a good scheme on how to cover all these books. But Wes, before we go, now that we've bled, just like Kwannon, we've bled all over this recording. Anything else to share with the people?
No, it's just I have a Event Leviathan review that's coming out. I have a pretty decent rant in that one. Can't wait for everyone to check that out. Be on the lookout on the channel. We have a very special Adamantium hour this Sunday. We're gonna have Skip's gonna be there, Doc's gonna be there. We got a few other special guests that are going to be joining us. I think Chase from Gateway into Comics. We're going to run down all the Dawn of X number 1 issues and what our thoughts are into that and some of the themes that overstretch all those comics. It was excellent.
Absolutely. If you guys are looking for an affordable gaming chair or desk chair, please consider Tabu Ohana right over here. They help orphans. There's actually a dinner banquet that's being thrown this weekend that I'll be attending. All proceeds go to, like I said, getting orphans shoes, clothes, backpacks. So, and like I said, the commission that I would get from selling the chair, I actually pass that along to you. So you get the chair at a bigger discount just so we can sell more of them and support more orphans. If you guys are looking to support our channel, please consider looking at our coffee link down there. One-time donations go a long way. Even $1 is fantastic. It all adds up. We have some editing software licenses that are coming around to being due here soon. So all support is highly appreciated. We are still polling to see what kind of additional content people would like. But as of right now, if you request, we can get you audio of various things so that way you can listen to them in podcast format. Special links for those ones. And ongoing donations, if you would like to, like I said, it really goes a long way, and we don't take any of it for granted. We appreciate all of it, and it helps us out big time because we've got a lot of ideas that we're looking to expand upon, TV show reviews, movie reviews, all of these different things, and something very special that Wes will announce a little bit later towards the end of the year. And outside of that, if you just want to keep the conversation going when we're not live, please come into our Discord. There will be a link for that as well. So many people keep joining in, and every time I go in there and I see a new name, I'm just like, yes, someone else to talk about comics with, someone else to talk about screenwriting. We got gamer chat rooms, we got comic spoiler chat rooms, we got TV show chat rooms, we've got all sorts of things, news chat rooms. So anything that you want to bring to the table. Bring your interest, bring your positivity, and bring your critical thinking mind over to our Discord. We really appreciate you going there. And Wes, I know I told you to remind me, but I remembered myself.
Yes.
For anybody that would like to come and actually hang out with me and us as we expand it, we just created a Twitch channel. It's not 100% live yet. It will be here soon by the weekend. I will be watching and live reacting to Mandalorian. I won't be showing it. That's totally against the rules, but I will be watching it and live reacting to it. So if you guys want to come over, watch it with me, I will post the link when I go live over in the Discord server. So please be there. Wes will likely retweet it if he's conscious. And then I will do a review of it live on Twitch, which will go live on YouTube later after the fact. So if you want to be there with me while I do it, and then actually talk with me while I'm watching the show, and then chat with me a little bit after I do the review, I would love to have all of you guys there. It would be a heck of a time. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. We've bled all over the place. I even wearing red. Wade Wilson. Slade Wilson? Wade Wilson. Slade is Deathstroke. I am Curtis. That is Wes. We are Thinking Critical.
Later, y'all. It's time to dance.